So I wanted to take a message to people that feel vulnerable, to people that feel sensitive to life. And I wanted to do this because I know intimately that kind of thing, because I considered myself to be someone like that, and to a degree still consider myself to be someone like that. And in this video, I want to how to turn that vulnerability into a kind of a strength, okay? Because I think that's what it actually is if channeled correctly. The difference between a weakness and a vulnerability is pretty significant. And if you work on yourself and integrate that properly, it becomes a strength, because, it is a strength when you consider it. Consider the fact that all the people that are sort of sensitive and open to life, all the artists, all the great creators, all the people working with people, the capacity to look at another person and consider what they need and what they want. It's also, by the way, a skill in business that you need to have if you want to be successful at it. Many areas in life where it serves you very well, but of course, what we fear the most is that it'll become a weakness, right? So what's the difference between a weakness and a strength? Well, here's the thing. Vulnerability itself, the capacity to be sensitive to life, it's not a bad thing. It means you're sensitive to receiving these impressions from life, okay? Where it becomes an issue is where you attempt to protect yourself and close off from life. See, the biggest paradox that you will encounter is the paradox of trying to protect yourself. Psychologically speaking, the more you try to protect yourself, the weaker you will feel. The more easy it'll be for you to get lost or get distracted or feel weakened when somebody stabs you just a little bit. It makes sense when you think about it deeply, all right? If you're always trying to protect yourself, it means that you feel insecure, you feel weak or vulnerable. And when you feel that, you try to erect a barrier between you and the world. Here's the thing though, if you're trying to erect a barrier, you will distract some attacks of the world from you, but you won't be developing the fundamental core of what you are anymore, because it's protected from real world effects. And of course, the problem and the reason why I do that is because it hurts. It hurts, it's painful, it's overly stimulating, and I know, I understand, trust me. But here's the thing, I don't think you have a choice, really. The only choice that you have is to embrace the suffering and the challenge of it consciously. And I really think that is the only choice if you want to develop as an adult, if you want to develop psychologically in the healthiest way possible. You can't cower, you can't try to hide from all these situations that make you feel open to the world. Ideally, at least what I have done, what has helped me, is to choose the areas that you're afraid of and to gradually go towards those challenges yourself. This might seem counterintuitive almost, You're like, yeah, but I don't like these situations. But see, I don't subscribe to this whole idea of self-development and the mindset work where it's all just positivity and self-protection oriented. In fact, I think it breeds infantile behavior, and it breeds actual weakness of character. The incapacity to face the challenges of life, okay? And I think it's the worst advice that anyone can give you is to try to protect yourself. If you feel sensitive, right? If the world is overloading you, sure, you might need to take some precautions, but ideally, you would go and try to take small challenges, okay? Because life isn't gonna get easier if you try to protect yourself. It's only gonna get easier when you try to build yourself up stronger and stronger and stronger. And there is an interesting paradox which I noticed in life, which is maybe a bit of a hypothesis, but it seems that there's quite a few cases like that, which is, haven't you noticed that people that are like really bad at something, but they go, you know what? I'm gonna try at this, and maybe it'll take longer than a typical person, but I'm gonna build myself up gradually. These people tend to learn that specific skill or area in life. They learn slower, but they have this very solid bedrock, because you're forced to deal with the issue very seriously, very dedicatedly. And if you have that dedication, if you have that fortitude to go through that, in time you'll probably become more resilient than a typical person in these situations. So that vulnerability that you have might not necessarily be a bad thing. It might be preparing you for a great skill set, a great capacity to help yourself and others. So don't discard that just because you have that. Just because you have this thing which you might consider a weakness. It's only a weakness if you allow yourself to give up, basically. If you view that as a sort of opportunity, maybe it's a way to show, your weak spots, but if you choose to focus on those and build yourself up, it'll become a kind of a strength. And here's the thing, if you are a type of open character person, right? Your psyche is pretty open to these ideas. You probably have the potential to be a great artist, someone that works with people, someone that works with animals, somebody that requires that empathy. And it can be a psychological empathy. It might be something that is related to aesthetic things, so you feel things greatly, artists, musicians, creatives, all of that. All of these areas that benefit from these people greatly. And if you follow this sort of paradoxical law of, if you try to avoid things, it'll keep getting scarier. If you keep confronting them, they'll keep reducing in their scaredness. And sooner or later, you'll realize a very interesting thing, which is the fact that you embrace those things, that's what builds such a deep, profound confidence, which is in a way unshakable. Because you're no longer afraid of these stimulations. And part of that is realizing that this suffering and pain and fear that we have, it's just unresolved shadow work that you should do if you want to grow as an adult, if you want to grow in consciousness, grow spiritually, whatever, psychologically even. And it's something that you will have to do. And if you won't do it, every single person on earth has to do it if they want to grow. They can choose to run away from it. But if they do, they will basically be stuck at a certain infantile stage of their development, and everything will be worse for them. They'll be worse at everything in their life, and they will be suffering more than they need to. So if you choose to embrace that, you'll find that if you embrace things like that, it becomes a kind of a courage, because you're like, I'm afraid, but I'm still doing it. And that is a hell of a better situation to be in. And then once you do that a little bit, once you do enough of that, you start realizing, you know what, it's kind of a strength of mine. The fact that I'm able to go directly into these challenges, it's unique. It's a unique strength that you develop. And it's strength not based on like empty promises and puffing your chest out, not this silly impression of strength. It's an actual strength because you're actually facing the things that scare you the most, and you're sort of surviving the impact of life. Now, do it gradually. Do it with things that you can handle, or just a bit, beyond that. And most importantly, what I always say to, all the people that I work with, really develop the capacity to self-regulate. Part of what you're dealing with is that you have to learn how to calm your nervous system down. You have to learn to focus your mindset on things that are important and your values rather than your constant fears and anxieties. Self-regulation is an inevitable part for any person that wants to actually grow up psychologically. It's inevitable. It doesn't mean you have to do it for your whole life, but it's a chapter that anyone who's seriously interested in self-development, in character development, in growth, you have to go through that. Because you need to have the reference experience of going, oh yeah, but I did sit down and did do this meditation, yoga, breath work, whatever, so mindset work, active meditations, whatever, and oh yeah, I did feel a bit of a result. It's like, yes, you need that, because then you start realizing, maybe I am at the cause, or even, not a total control. Who is in total control? You need to be very high level to be in total control, but I can influence things. And that's a very powerful position to be in. Once you experience that a few times, once you do some really deep work and you experience those breakthrough moments, It'll change the way that you look at things forever. Your whole life will be changed. You'll realize that you have this deep connection to something so deep and so strong that nothing can really touch you, that there's that deep well somewhere in you that you can tap into when things are really tough. And there's nothing better than that. And in that sense, that deepest fear and vulnerability becomes the road to that well, to that deep hope and deep anchor that you have to reality, to call it whatever you want, the deepest layers of your psyche, the spiritual layers of your psyche, the God, whatever, dude. It's there. Anyone who's done sufficient inner work knows it's there. I know it's there. Ask anyone who's done sufficient amounts of inner work. They'll tell you it's there. It's there. So use it, utilize it, and make it into a strength.